Hey guys, what's up? It's Samantha, and today I am going to be going over every book I read in April, but I'm going to be switching things up today. The last couple of videos have been just incredibly long, and I think they're just a little bit too much to consume in one sitting, so what I'm going to do today instead is go over real quickly every book that I read this month and what the star rating I gave it was, and then at the end I'm going to go over my 5 favorite books or series. Like if I read a whole series in a month, I'll just group that all together, and there's a couple of those this month. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and just real quick run through all of the books I read in April. The first book I finished in April was Finale by Stephanie Garber, and I gave this 2.5 stars. Sleepless Volume 2 by Sara, Vaughn, and several other contributors, and this is a graphic novel. I gave it 4 stars. Illuminae by Kristoff and Amie Kaufman, and I gave this 4.5 stars. Keeper of the Lost Cities by Shannon, and I gave this 4 stars. The Cardboard Kingdom, also a graphic novel by Chad Sell, and I gave this 3.75 stars. Nevermoor, The Trials of Morrigan by Jessica Townsend, and I gave this 5 stars. Voices, The Final Hours of Joan of Arc by David Elliott, and I gave this 3.5 stars. Dig by A.S. King, and I gave this 5 stars. These Divided Shores by Sara Raasch, and I gave this 3 stars. Red Scrolls of Magic by Cassandra and Wesley, and I gave this 4 stars. Wundersmith, The Calling of Morrigan by Jessica Townsend, and I also gave this 5 stars. The Kiss Quotient by Helen, Hoang, and I gave this 2.53 stars. Aurora Rising by Amie Kaufman and Kristoff, and I gave this 4 stars. 3 Dark Crowns by Kendare, and I gave this 4 stars. One Dark Throne, also by Kendare, and I gave this 5 stars. Queens of Fennbirn, also by Kendare, and I gave this 4 stars. 2 Dark Reigns, also by Kendare, and I gave this 4 stars. You Must Not Miss by Katrina, Leno, and I gave this 2.53 stars. Gemina by Kristoff and Amie Kaufman, and I gave this 4 stars. Alright, so getting into my 5 favorite books this month, the first book I want to talk about is Dig by A.S. King, and this is a really difficult book to talk about because I can't really talk about what the book's about without spoiling it, and I feel like it's a book that you really need to go into unspoiled. So just in general, it's a book about 5 cousins who are in an estranged family and how they sort of find each other and come back together. And this book examines issues of racism and inherited family dysfunction and just complicated family relationships, and it was just really beautifully done. The chapters are super short. Most of the chapters are 1 to 3 pages, so you feel like you're flying through this book. It is multi-perspective with all of the cousins and also with other characters that you meet along the way, and it's just really amazing to watch how all of these pieces come together in the end. I thought it was so beautifully written and just really insightful. I think it would be a perfect book for a book discussion. I could even see it being taught in a classroom. It's a really, truly beautiful book, and it might not be for everyone. It is a surreal novel. If you haven't read A.S. King before, her books are contemporary, but they a lot of times will have a surreal element to them, so it's not fantasy or magic realism, but they're always a little bit wacky. I'm personally the type of reader that loves books that have just like a little bit of quirk in them, and so that doesn't bother me. I was the perfect reader for this type of book, and that is why I gave it 5 stars. The next 2 books I wanted to talk about were the 2 Wundersmith books by Jessica Townsend that I read in April, and these were just such a whimsical, fun, magical fantasy world that it was like all of the best parts of like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and Harry Potter, and yet it was completely original and just beautiful themes of friendship and found families, and they just made me so happy to read. The audiobooks are also wonderful. I listened and read them, so I jumped back and forth between the audiobook and the physical book. I enjoyed both formats, and if you are a fan of middle grade fantasy, I cannot recommend this enough. Wundersmith follows our main character, Morrigan, who spent her whole life believing she is cursed. On the eve of her 12th birthday, the night she believes she is supposed to die, she is whisked away by this really incredibly wacky man that's like the best parts of Dumbledore and Willy Wonka, and he whisks her away to this magical kind of land where she's entered into this tournament to get a spot at a school to join the Wondrous Society. And the Wondrous Society is these group of people with these amazing quirks and talents, and the problem is Morrigan doesn't seem to have a quirk or talent, and she is baffled as to why she is being entered into this contest because she thinks she's just a completely ordinary girl other than being cursed. And she doesn't have any magical abilities or powers, and it's just really wonderful to watch her decide to like stick with it because she loves the people she's met so much, and it's just really charming and wonderful and heartwarming. And it's the kind, it gave me, it's not like Harry Potter at all, but it gave me that same really warm, wonderful feel that Harry Potter gave me when I read it as a child. And I personally still read middle grade fantasy, and I think this is an exemplary addition to the middle grade fantasy genre. The next book on my favorites list is, unsurprisingly, Aurora Rising by Amie Kaufman and J. Kristoff. I actually had an arc of this. It was a digital arc, and then I liked it so much I decided to pre-order this book. It doesn't hurt that this is a Charlie Bowater cover, and I love Charlie Bowater's covers. She's probably my favorite cover artist there is. So Aurora Rising is a multi-perspective, sci-fi, futuristic kind of story. It takes place out in deep space, and our sort of opening is with Tyler, and he is the best in his class, and the day he's supposed to graduate, he decides to go out for a joyride, and he stumbles across the wreckage of a ship that had been destroyed like 200 years ago. Everyone just thought it was lost in space, and in the cryogenic pods there is one girl still alive, Aurora, and he rescues her and brings her back to his flight school, where he discovers he has missed the graduation and missed sort of the recruiting process where you pick your team members, and he is now left with the bottom of the barrel, the worst and most difficult to get along with people in his flight school. He also discovers that by picking up this lost girl, he might have brought more trouble on himself than he could have ever imagined, and it is quickly evident that Aurora is wanted by multiple people, and he and his ragtag group of space pilots, they're not all pilots, but of space explorers have to protect Aurora and sort of on faith follow this crazy mission to figure out what the mystery behind Aurora is. And it's just really, really fun. There is a heist element to this, so that is sort of reminiscent of Six of Crows a little bit, but it is completely set in space. There's aliens, there's space politics, there's action, there's adventure. If you're a fan of Star Trek, you need to pick this up. I got crazy Star Trek vibes from this, and it just made me very, very happy. It's very fast-paced. It is multi-perspective, and there are certain characters that I found, which is why I gave it a 4-star instead of a 5-star. There were a couple characters that I found fell a little flat, but I think that some of the characters in here are going to be my new favorites, and I'm so excited for the sequel. I know I will be pre-ordering the sequel whenever it comes out, hopefully a year from now, because I don't want to wait too long. So the next series on my favorites list is Three Dark Crowns, the whole series by Kendare Blake, and I actually was so surprised by how much I liked this. I went into it thinking it was just going to be like a meh, middle of the road, like fantasy series for me, and I ended up really, really loving this series. I do think the second book was probably my favorite out of all of them, which is unusual for me. I feel like the second book in a series usually tends to be the weakest, but I absolutely fell in love with this world and these characters. So the premise of the series is that there is this island, Fennbirn, and Fennbirn is always ruled by a queen with a gift or power, and every generation the queen gives birth to 3 triplets, and then the queen leaves the island, and these 3 new queens are raised, and then when they come of age, they are pitted against each other and have to fight to the death so that there's just one ruler of this island. And all of the girls have different gifts. We have the poisoner, we have the naturalists, we have the elementals, and there's other gifts that are talked about, but they're sort of fading, or there's like controversies with different gifts. And these three sisters, and the one sister, the elemental, has very, very strong powers, some of the strongest powers that have been seen, and then the other two girls basically have no gift at all whatsoever. So everyone thinks they know exactly how this is going to pan out. The other two sisters are going to die. The one with the really strong gift is going to ascend the throne, but there's so much political intrigue and scheming and plotting, and there's all these side characters, and it's just amazing to see how these characters develop. The sisters have been raised completely apart from each other, and they do end up meeting and interacting, and it's just amazing to watch all of these relationships develop. And I like really love the plotting and the scheming. It just makes my little Slytherin heart so happy, you guys. It's very dark, very atmospheric. I feel like it would be the perfect book to read on like a foggy, misty fall day kind of thing. So I just cannot say enough good things. I've already pre-ordered the last book in the series that's coming out this fall. I am so here for this. And I would say reading the short stories, which I did read this month, is pretty important for understanding the third book. I feel like it added a lot of depth to the world of this island, because in the first book you're kind of like, the world is very small, and then it expands a lot as the series goes on, and I really appreciated that. So if you've been like about jumping into the series, I cannot recommend it highly enough. And then my last favorite series for April was the Illuminae files by Kristoff and Amie Kaufman, and oh my gosh, I love this series so much. I picked up Illuminae on a whim, and I just completely fell in love with it. I loved Illuminae. I thought Gemina was a little... I didn't care about the characters in Gemina as much as I did in Illuminae or in Obsidio, but by the end of Obsidio, I cared about all of the characters quite a lot. So Illuminae follows our two main characters, Katie and Ezra, and Katie and Ezra are high school students, and they have just broken up. The day after their breakup, they are in school when destruction starts raining from the sky, and the mining colony they lived on is bombed to smithereens. And they are part of a few thousand people who are able to escape the mining colony that they lived on, and they are on these ships out in space, desperately trying to get to the wormhole to take them back to civilization. They are adrift, and the ships are breaking down, and there is drama, and people are upset because there's dead people everywhere. And then there's also a mysterious virus that was unleashed as part of the attack on their mining colony. And to top it all off, there is a maniacal computer named Aiden who will be your favorite character ever in the history of sci-fi robot computer characters. Because nothing says favorite like murderous AI, right? So this series just completely blew me away. It was so high stakes, high action, fast paced. I could not put this down. I cannot say enough good things about this series. If you're a fan of action, adventure, if you like Star Trek, if you like zombie movies, this is for you. Alright guys, so that was everything that I read in April. Hopefully this format is just a little more digestible and easier to put out for you guys. It was also hard for me because I ended up filming for over an hour, and editing over an hour of footage is time consuming. So thanks for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you in my next one. Bye!